Hello and welcome to what has always been during this time of the year, the Independence Day special episode. And this time around we have named it very aptly Make in India Wheels of Change, because we are featuring 4 homegrown brands that have of course been making in India, and they are the drivers of change. The first story that we are going to bring to you is that of a superstar, and this one has built on the legacy of another very popular machine. I'm talking about the Mahindra Xuv700. This one ticks all the boxes for the consumers, and it has also shifted the dynamics from the industry's perspective in a big way. Mahindra has always been known for very robust off-road vehicles. They've been doing body-on-ladder frames, utilitarian cars, agricultural cars. Back in the day, when we all started loving Mahindras, it was because of the MM540s and the 550s, the CJ3A, 3B platforms. And over time, they've moved significantly, specifically with one car that was the Scorpio, because that changed everything in the 2000s. But as time moved on, Mahindra also moved on very successfully. And there came a time with the XUV500 when the market shifted in a very big way. And then, of course, after all the success of the XUV500, we landed with this, the XUV700, which of this decade at least is the most significant car for Mahindra. And I say this despite knowing the fact that there is a new Scorpio, or Scorpion, it's the Scorpio N that has just been launched. Yes, I genuinely don't think that the Scorpio N is as important as the XUV700, and there are some reasons for it. The way this thing drives and the whole chassis responds to your inputs is unlike any Mahindra that you would have driven before this. Take, for example, the suspension. The rear is multi-link with stabilizer bars. In fact, stabilizer bars are on both ends. The front struts also come with stabilizer bars, and the multi-link suspension also comes with stabilizers. But there is also frequency damping that has been provided. FSD, or frequency selective damping, is a very tricky sort of a suspension setup, because that deals with 2 different frequency levels in the suspension. When you have low frequency, that means it's for high damping, and that means you are driving the car at fairly high speeds, more for driving enjoyment. And when you have low speed ride comfort, that again, that gets kind of prioritized, and comfort is something that the suspension kind of gets adjusted towards. Other than that, this screen is what has been a massive talking point, because it almost reminds everyone of Mercedes-Benz, because that's the way Mercedes-Benz cars have been over the past few years. And these are 2 massive 10 and some inches screens. In front of the driver is, of course, a digital cockpit, and over here on the left, or rather in the center, is all your infotainment and stuff like that. So in terms of just the whole connectivity package, the XUV700 is pretty loaded, gives you all the options. And another aspect that Mahindra has delivered fully on is safety, and specifically with the ADAS package. Now, ADAS is Advanced Driver Assist Systems, and this is something that has not been seen on cars of this segment. So you get adaptive cruise control, first of all. So adaptive cruise control basically enables the car to accelerate and brake on its own. You only have to engage it and then be relaxed. Another thing that Mahindra has given in the ADAS package is auto emergency braking, and what that does is apply emergency brakes whenever it senses an imminent accident, which is again immensely useful if you are not really paying a lot of attention, or there is something that just comes suddenly in your way. The other one is lane keep assist, and this is actually an assist because it's not only a warning, while you have the option of just setting it for warning only as well, but it will also work the steering and kind of keep you in between the lane markings. But it works when the lane markings are fairly solid and bright. So yeah, lane keep assist is again something that we have been seeing in a lot of cars, especially in the luxury segment. And in this segment, the XUV700 just pushes the boundaries even more. And we did test it out, and it works very well. A little bit too aggressively, perhaps, but it definitely works well. So overall, the XUV700 is somewhat of an evolution and somewhat of a revolution as well, because it is, from an engineering standpoint, something that we hadn't seen from Mahindra at all. The all-wheel drive works wonderfully well. Considering its weight and size and all the other things, it is genuinely a very good job that Mahindra has done with the 700. And you would not have expected the car to behave the way it does. I definitely thought that it's going to understeer itself into an accident, but it did not. In fact, it has held its line very nicely. The ESP is a little intrusive, but at the same time, which ESP does not act like that? And another thing that shows the beautiful engineering quality that Mahindra has thrown in is the fact that in global NCAP results, this has done absolute wonders. It received 5-star results for adult occupants and 4 stars for child occupants, and that is absolutely remarkable. And just overall, as a package, it's genuinely amazing. And the very fact that they have benchmarked this car against very, very credible European rivals is something that should be respected. And Mahindra has genuinely done a very solid job with the XUV700, and that is exactly why I say that this is the most important car of this decade for Mahindra, because this is the starting point of things to come. So, a great moment of pride, not just for the company, but for the nation. And that is exactly the reason why this is on top of our list of this special episode.
The Royal Enfield Himalayan, a very competent product that showed the world what Royal Enfield can do when injected with a good dose of vitality. And when you do a product like this properly and apply it correctly, things really start to change. This one has enhanced the brand equity of Royal Enfield in a big way. And this ethos is shared by the product that we're going to talk about next in the episode. It belongs to a category that is absolutely packed with competition, and it is doing fairly well. I'm talking about the Tata Nexon. But this one is not your regular Nexon. It is the Nexon EV Max, a car that we were properly impressed by, because what Tata has done with this is push itself in the engineering department, in the packaging department. And this also shows the strength that Tata has and the intent that Tata has towards the future of mobility, which is going to be all electric.
Tata Motors has been on a roll with the Nexon EV, and it is essentially that one organization that has had the first mover advantage and also has gone at a very rapid pace to basically give the audiences or the marketplace that whole opportunity of latching on to the EV gameplay with the Nexon EV. This one is a Max, and to kind of have a great amount of justification for the Max tag, Tata Motors has done a lot of things with the Nexon EV, and we'll get to it one at a time. The one thing you will absolutely smile about and you will appreciate a lot is the ride quality. The suspension is absolutely mind-blowing. It absorbs everything in its path, and even when you're going hard around some corners, it gives you that confidence that it is compressing very nicely, but at the same time, it's not losing its stance at all, and it doesn't get disturbed all that much. The battery pack has gained about 33% more output compared to the regular Nexon EV. And with this bigger battery size, Tata has claimed that the Nexon EV Max will go to about 437 kilometers. So that is a big amount of range gain that we have got over here. We have been driving in economy mode in the city for the most part. And then we have put the car in the regular city mode and also toyed around with the sport mode a few times. We are doing some high-speed runs. And despite of the mix between eco, city and sport, it has not really dipped down to the level that I thought it would. So in terms of battery management, it's absolutely wonderful, and 75% charge remaining and 247 kilometers now being shown on the display, as the range is not bad at all. The Nexon EV Max makes about 143 bhp and 250 Newton meter, and these are very healthy numbers for a car of this sort. And the battery pack can be recharged through a DC fast charger in about 56-57 minutes from 0 to 80%. And there is also a 7.2 kilowatt charger system that the Nexon comes with, and that will charge the battery in about 6.5 hours. So even in terms of recharging, it's not all that bad. And if you come to a station which does have a DC fast charger, then it's all about going in, having a little lunch, coming out with your battery pack juiced up to about 80% if you're down to 0. Now in the standard car with a standard braking system, you have something called a vacuum booster. And what Tata has done with the Nexon EV Max is eliminated that. And it essentially results in 3% more efficiency gain that you get out of the system, and it prioritizes regenerative braking. So, it stores the energy when you are either getting off the throttle or pressing on the brakes. So it's this button over here that will let you either go up or down the regenerative levels. The Nexon EV Max also comes with different drive modes. One is Eco, very decent. You can genuinely, again, drive this car in Eco all the time and not have any complaints at all. The second is City, which is a little bit more rapid and something that you'll be absolutely fine with. But the way it responds when you shift the car into the sport mode is just amazing. In terms of features, you have everything, right from the connectivity features with Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, your Bluetooth connectivity happening as well. And then you have the full net of safety features as well. And Tata anyway is extremely famous for its crash test results. So you have this sense of confidence in the car because you're sitting in a nice cocoon, which is very safe. It's a safety cell almost. And yeah, it always plays at the back of your mind that, hey, you know what? It is a globally recognized car for its safety, and something that is becoming a big buying parameter as well. That, I want to prioritize safety over a lot of other regular things. So the Nexon EV Max, it definitely lives up to the Max tag that has been added to the name itself. If you want to get into the EV game and want to have your primary car as an electric vehicle, this is a great piece of machinery to start with. It has everything that you want. Even the regular Nexon EV is actually not bad at all. But now with the levels of region that you get and the extended range, the features, the safety, everything combined, I think the EV Max makes slightly more sense than the standard Nexon EV. And anyway, if you've planned to buy the Nexon EV, you would want to spend that delta amount and go in for this, because come to think of it, it gives you that much extra as well.
Back in the day, the world of performance motorcycling was dominated by wonderful two-strokers by Yamaha, like the RX 100 and 135. And on the other end, we had Hero Honda launching 4-strokers, which were affordable 100cc commuter motorcycles. TVS was always trying to play the catch-up role, whether it was against Yamaha with the TVS-Suzuki partnership or whether it went independent and tried to rival Hero Honda. Things never really worked in a very constructive way for the brand. But over the last few years, TVS has had almost like a revival of sorts. They have been doing exceedingly well in both the affordable and commuter category and the performance category. And somewhere in between, they do some very interesting projects. One such project has been a bike called Ronin. This is a neo-retro scrambler sort of a look, and it is genuinely a very pleasing motorcycle.
The Ronin has been built from the ground up, and it surely doesn't seem to fit into any known category of motorcycles. But if I were to try, it looks more like a neo-retro roadster with some scrambler elements and ergonomics of a relaxed cruiser. The overall result is a motorcycle that is comfortable and has good presence. The TVS Ronin gets a new chassis. It has a double cradle frame that hangs off Showa's 41mm big piston upside-down forks up front and a gas-charged rear monoshock. Now, the TVS Ronin has a price bracket of 1.49 to 1.69 lakh Indian rupees, and we should really appreciate TVS to bring in such a high grade of equipment for this kind of money. The lazy 27-degree rake angle of the suspension fork is quite cruiser-like and brings in a lot of stability, but at the expense of agility. To work around that, TVS has designed a fork offset at the bottom, which is something you see normally on dirt bikes. But where the fork offset on a dirt bike moves the wheel forward to increase the trail, TVS has gone the other way around here and brought the wheel back in. This helps to reintroduce some agility and make for a light and easy bike to ride. Because we rode the Ronin in Goa's torrential downpour, we can't really say much about the cornering abilities. But the lower spring rate and damping match Ronin's comfortable character. And that's what you expect from a motorcycle of this sort: relaxed posture, comfortable ride, and a great level of engineering. The TVS Ronin gets an all-new 226cc single-cylinder engine with a squared configuration. The engine has 4 valves, an oil cooler to keep temperatures in check, and it drives the rear wheel through a 5-speed gearbox that is shared with the RTR 200. The engine has an extremely flat torque curve spread richly across the low end mid-range of the power band. In numbers, it makes about 20 horsepower at 7750 rpm and almost 20 Nm of torque at 3750 rpm. Even the numbers show that this is not a high-strung engine and is tuned to offer easily accessible performance. Power delivery is also extremely tractable, and you can ride the Ronin at speeds as low as 30 km per hour in 5th gear, from where it pulls steadily and cleanly to build faster speed. But if you want to make a quick overtake, you will need to downshift, and this is where the slipper and assist clutch comes into play to help you out with hassle-free downshifts at any speed. Whether you are shifting up or down, every gear slots in very slickly and smoothly, and that enhances the comfort level a bit more. The Ronin also has 2 riding modes, urban and rain, but they only affect the sensitivity of the ABS. Speaking of which, you get a single channel setup on the lower and middle variants, but shifting to the top spec variant brings in a dual channel ABS, as well as adjustable levers and plenty of connected features via a dedicated TVS app. Overall, the TVS Ronin is an interesting bike, one that doesn't have any direct rivals, at least on paper. But after spending some time with it, we can see that it can be an affordable alternative to the likes of the Honda CB350RS or the Royal Enfield 350S. This is a solid package that does a bit of everything to some extent, but does one job exceptionally well, and that is of delivering a joyful and relaxed riding experience on tarmac.
For the last story of this special episode, we have an icon for you. When it was first launched in 2001, the world of motorcycling was left gobsmacked. It defined the term street naked performance with its muscular styling and very strong engines. And this brand, over the last 2 decades, has just continued to grow in a very strong way. I'm talking about the Bajaj Pulsar. Enough said, I'm going to leave you with the latest Pulsar to hit the market. You must be thinking why Bajaj introduced the N160 when the NS160 was already and still is in the market. As per the company, the N160 is an all-new motorcycle which is developed from scratch and is quite a bit different from its NS160 sibling. Before the ride, Bajaj told us that it is an entry-level sports bike and should not be considered as a premium commuter. So let us test this claim. To start with, it definitely looks interesting. And why not? Because style has always been a USP of Pulsars. The N160 is no different. Based on the Pulsar N250, the N160 gets more premium equipment compared to the NS160. And that includes wider front fork and larger disc brakes, which are surely going to be a big advantage when it comes to ride and handling. The ride quality is quite good, but a mild firmness in the ride can be felt at the rear. We were riding it with stock preload setting and think that the ride quality should improve once the preload is suitably adjusted. The riding posture is quite good and comfortable even with a flattened handlebar that actually gives a little sporty feel while riding. As for the brakes, the Grimicas are my new favorite in the segment. This new caliper setup offers stronger bite and progression with more than enough feedback through the lever. It was raining cats and dogs during a ride, but what else can be a better condition to test a motorcycle with dual channel ABS? And we were quite impressed with the sporty tuning of the ABS because it instills confidence and you don't get those irritating early interventions. Now coming to the most impressive part, its engine. The Pulsar N160's engine has nothing to do with the existing Pulsar NS160s, and the new long-stroke motor has been developed alongside the Pulsar N250's motor. It gets a simple 2-valve head and makes about 16 horsepower and 14.7 Nm of peak torque. Now these figures are not class-leading, although quite close to the motorcycles at the top of the segment. But what is more important is that the 14.7 Nm torque output is available a bit early in the rev range at about 6,750 rpm. So what you get is progressive delivery and good traction in low and mid-range. It is between 4,000 and 7,000 rpm where you feel the sweet spot of the motorcycle to be. And we can definitely say that this is the most refined Bajaj engine that we have ever experienced. While the engine is sporty enough, the 5-speed gearbox is quite relaxed and you do feel the need for a 6th gear. But otherwise the ratios work well in city riding conditions and the shifts are slick. In the real world, the engine is delightfully smooth, packs oodles of torque and has decent top end punch as well. So, the all-new Bajaj Pulsar N160 certainly makes an impression. It handles well, ride quality is good, brakes are superb, and the engine offers a level of refinement not seen in any entry-level Pulsar before. And the company claim is quite right. It actually has a sporty intent and also has been priced in line with its sportiest rival, which is the TVS Apache RTR 164V. But should we also think of it as a premium commuter? A definite and a big yes to that. And with that, we conclude this Independence Day special episode of Pitstop. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to connect with us, just go on any of these social media pages and drop in a line to us. Before going, as always, I urge you to be very, very responsible whenever you're on the road, be it on feet or on wheels. My name is Ashish, signing off. I will see you in 7.